What up, what up, what up, what up, Hexicans? Today, I want to show you guys what I've been thinking about on what happens when a stake ends after it's served its term. And it has this cumulative effect that benefits the staker pool over time. It's like a compounding effect. And ending a stake does three things simultaneously, all at once. And so this is a tweet here that I posted a while back. It has a cumulative effect on HEX. It mints new HEX into existence, which raises our daily interest payout as it surrenders the shares in the share pool, as it raises the share price, the barrier to new entry. HEX is an interactive and dynamic financial system, kind of like a game. Okay. So what I want to do is show you what that means, right? We'll take in HEX Winbot on Telegram. You guys should check that out. We'll take this this stake right here, right? This is 1,000,000 HEX that ended a stake. That's 355 days old. You can see that it served its full term. It didn't pay a penalty, which means that it ended its stake on time, and it didn't end late, right? And it didn't end early, so there's no penalty. The payout was 565,000 HEX or 56.6 ROI. So this principle has already been a part of the minted supply. Over here, you can see on HEX Info what the total minted supply is, and this is what actually determines the daily payout in HEX. Over at hex.com, you can see that the daily payout is 62.623 million HEX, and on this date, right, which is the last day, the last time the HEX contract turned over, it paid the 62 million HEX to 10.8 million T-shares in the system at a rate of 5.75 HEX per T-share, right? So how does the HEX contract arrive at this number? Well, you can take the total minted HEX of like 627 billion. So let's put that in there. 27 billion, and you multiply it by the annual percentage rate of 3.69% inflation. HEX inflates 3.69% a year, right? So we go 0.0369, and that gives you 23 billion HEX for the year, based off of this minted supply, right? So we divide that by 365, and it should be about 63,387,000 HEX paid daily to the staker pool. Well, it shows that we're at 62.6. So we're about, I don't know, we're about 500,000 off. I'm not exactly sure why that's the case. I'm assuming this is how the HEX contract calculates the total minted supply. But it's a little bit off. But my point is still going to be the same, right? Of what happens when a stake ends. And what is this cumulative effect that's happening that's going to benefit you in the staker in the share pool while your principal is staked out for years and years, right? This HEX has already been minted. This HEX has, but this hasn't. This 500,000 HEX is brand new, minted by the contract, and this day was the first day that it's ever been added to the total minted supply. So the T shares that this stake was occupying in the share pool, I would imagine would be about 120 T shares. So what it does is it pulls the T shares out of the share pool, and so this million HEX is no longer getting paid to be staked. and then it mints new supply, which raises our daily payout over time. This is the cumulative effect that it's doing. So, and then if this hex wants to restake, well, then it has to restake at a higher share rate, because we can see a million hex for 365 days now would only get 73 T shares. Well, a year ago it got 120. So you're having to stake more hex for longer to compete in this share pool the same way. Now he could stake his principal and his interest, which would be about 1.56 million hex, and you can see here that gave him 114 T shares, but he still didn't get 120 T shares, and he had to stake his principal and his interest after a year just to stay in. So staking short term, you see that to plan out your CD ladder and to understand that the longer you have your hex staked out, this cumulative effect is gonna compound for you over time, and we can see how it's already starting to compound. He could have staked that million hex for 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, and he would have actually gotten 20% more for doing that. So he would have gotten more shares, and he would have stayed in for longer and getting paid more hex daily for longer had he just staked it for longer and not just a year. So that's a really kind of powerful way to understand that when you do commit this principle in the contract, think about pushing it out further and further so that you're getting the benefits of this system and the cumulative effects of what happens when this is a 2-year chart of hex that's staked in the contract. And this is going to, so this is 2022. So we're going to go right up to 2023. And this is almost 30 billion hex. And I don't know if you know this, but there's only 60 billion hex total staked in the hex contract. So in the next 2 years, 50% of all the hex that's staked has to surrender this, right? And it's been earning money this whole time, and it got that sweet share rate of being, of pre-big payday, shares, and it's it's the beginning. We're just now over the first year of Hex's launch, so we can assume that all of this Hex got a really, really good share rate, right? And they have to surrender it, okay? And that's new Hex coming into the market to be sold or to be restaked, but it's going to be restaked at a much higher share rate now. So all of this Hex that has to surrender their shares mints brand new Hex into existence, and it stops competing in the share pool. So we get paid in 2 different ways. We get paid when it stops competing. We get paid more because there's less T shares in the share pool, and then new Hex is minted into existence when these stakes end, which increases our daily payout. And if they want to get back in, they got to get back in at a much higher share rate. All right, guys, that is what I wanted to tell you about. Ending stakes seems to be the most interesting part of this. It ratchets everything up in an up and to the right kind of direction, and only in that direction. The share rate only goes up, right? All right, guys, that's it. Take care.